This podcast is for informational purposes only and should not be considered legal, medical, or mental health advice. The views and opinions expressed do not necessarily reflect the official policy or position of the podcast and are not intended to malign any religion, group, club, organization, business, individual, anyone, or anything.
I'm Sarah Edmondson.
And I'm Anthony Nippy Ames, and this is A Little Bit Culty.
We woke up from a cult, and that journey was captured in The Vow on HBO and in my memoir, Scarred.
Now, in this podcast, we break down the shame and secrets that make these experiences so destructive with honest conversations on how seemingly benign groups can cross into the cultiverse and how to spot and recover from trouble if it happens to you.
Each week, we bring in experts, survivors, and whistleblowers to explore red flags, resilience, and even share a few laughs, because sometimes you gotta laugh.
Subscribe to our Patreon for early and ad-free listening, some live Q&A, and exclusive content at patreon.com/alittleBitCulty.
Welcome to Season 8 of A Little Bit Culty. Welcome back, everybody, to part 2 with Anne Peterson, where we continue our conversation about Schmandmark, the large group awareness training, and what happens when transformation goes off the rails. Last time, Anne walked us through shiny promises, the peak experiences, the very real harms happening behind the scenes. Today, we get into the fallout, whistleblowers, legal pushback, and what it actually takes to name abuse when it's being wrapped in self-help language like 100% responsibility. Barf-orama. We'll also talk about how Anne is helping people untangle from harmful groups and how she's trying to build safer spaces for growth and healing. So if you've ever sat in a seminar wondering why you felt both transformed and a little bit messed up, well, this one's for you. And if you missed part 1, do yourself a favor and catch up with that one first. You know what to do. Enjoy! This is where I keep coming back to, like, what's the good and the bad of it? Like, if something happens in my life that is not to my liking, whatever that is, and if I can see how I played a part so that I don't do that again, or I don't victimize myself, not to say that I wasn't a victim, but put myself in a victim mentality saying like, oh, this just happened. You know I showed up, or I didn't show up, or I didn't understand the expectations. I didn't read the fine print. I didn't read the contract. There's things that I didn't or did not do to get me to the situation. That knowing my part helps me to move forward.
Right.
That's where it's helpful. But to say it's 100% responsibility, that means the other person who may have lied to me or wronged me in some way has no responsibility. That's fucked.
Or didn't put that information on the form, or didn't tell you that's a potential problem, or like the lack of informed consent, right? And then it always works. Like people say, we had this in the Being a Leader course. I had several academics walk out of one of the courses that I hosted in partnership with the academic institution. And when I would go back to, because I was the host, I was the one talking to the people that were leaving, and I wanted to get the feedback because I was in for the mission to get this ontological, phenomenological approach to education introduced into the academia. That's what I thought I was doing. And so I'm talking to these academics, and they're telling me why the course is BS and how it has no academic rigor. There's no peer review study. They're cherry picking studies and only using parts for confirmation bias. Like that's how I started to learn about all that stuff, is talking to these academics.
Yeah.
But then you take that back into the instructor room, and, I would try to give them some of that feedback. And the response was what is very typical, which is, well, if they had stayed to the end, they would have gotten it. Which, by the way, goes all the way back. When you watch Semi-Tough, you'll love the whole got it. Like you'll learn where got it in our lexicon came from, because that's an est term. The whole thing is everybody would leave the est training going, I got it. Did you get it? And then pretty soon you're all like, yeah, I got it. What'd you get? I don't know, but I sure got it. Because these trainings are actually peak experiences, right? So Dr. John Hunter's work is amazing that he's doing on the dopamine hypothesis about what's actually happening in the brain in these trainings. And yes, people do end up creating positive things in their life out of that high, I mean, if you've ever talked to anybody who deals with manic depressive disorder, they'll tell you, man, manic episodes are amazing. Like you can do amazing things in mania, right?
Interesting.
But it doesn't last. And it also can you can totally tear your life apart. And that's what happens out of these large group awareness trainings. That's fundamentally what happens.
Well, you attribute them to your dopamine hits.
Well, unfortunately, you attribute them to the training. If you actually did attribute them to the
That's what I mean. That's what I mean.
Oh my God, that limb.
Yeah, you attribute the dopamine hits to the training.
Right.
Yep.
Except for most people don't know that what's happening is a dopamine hit. They just think they've been transformed because that's what they tell you. Right? I mean, weren't your guys' trainings like that? Like for us?
Well, because you feel so good.
Yeah.
You feel so good. And that's what I see with things like, other large group awareness trainings like Tony Robbins, that it is so much of the hype and the excitement and the feel good. And then you go home and you're like, yeah, rah, rah. We used to call them rah, rah.
Tony Robbins is one that at first I didn't think was as bad.
Oh, it's pretty
as,
bad.
What we were doing. But when I look at it, by the time you are talking to him in front of a crowd of people and you've spent money to go there, he is in a position of power that you cannot stand up to without looking bad. So you have to be submissive and agree to his perspective. Like I saw one question he asked, he's like, am I talking to your mother or your father? Is it your mother or your father? And the person was like, well, is it your mother or father? Like he used force, but if you didn't know what you were looking at, you would see that he was like courting her to ask a valuable question. And it was like, no, this is the way this is going. It's binary. And if you don't answer it, I'm going to embarrass you in front of all these people.
Yeah, you're going to look stupid and you won't have the acceptance of the group. I mean, we've heard of one gal, 14 years old. She's in an adult forum, which is something that should absolutely stop. They just announced, kind of accidentally announced that they would not be doing young people forums or teen forums, but they are still allowing people as young as 15 into the adult forum. So anyway, in this case, the gal stands up, it's Sunday. There's this whole exercise about choice. Your graduate friends come on Sunday night. Like, so whoever invited you to the programs can come in on Sunday night. So usually, right, they're all there. And they do this whole choice exercise, chocolate, vanilla, choose. Anyway, and the whole point is I choose because I choose. Like I just choose because I choose, and then if you get deeper into that distinction, like reading the leadership course, it's all about choosing freely after consideration. So anyway.
What does that mean?
Who the hell knows? It's supposed to mean you do a cost-benefit analysis and you choose, but then in the end, your choice isn't because of the cost-benefit, it's because you said. It's a matter of your word. That's everything in the Werner lexicon comes down to your word. I mean, even to the point where I've heard that he said to a few people at different times that, well, I don't have an agreement not to treat my staff that way. Well, yes, you do. The laws of the land, dipshit. But that's the way these groups are. They're above the law. They have their own set of rules, and their rules, whether they were given to them by God or given to them by Keith Raniere or Werner Erhard or whatever deity, are somehow above the society that we live in. But this gal stands up on a Sunday and she's like doing the chocolate vanilla, and you're there with the whole group and oh my gosh, and what are you at 14? Like you just you're figuring out who you are. You just want to be loved and accepted and admired, right? Like, well, maybe forever, but for sure when you're in your teens. And she does the chocolate vanilla choose, gets it. And then the leader's like, well, then, what about your father? Because of course she's been sharing about her pedophile father and the trauma and drama that's happened in her family throughout the weekend. And then he goes, well, what about your father? And she goes, I choose my father. And the whole room erupts into, yay. Now, what's happening in that room is, it's a Buddhist idea. We are with life the way that it is. Okay, but what happens out of that room is the mom gets back in touch with the father, brings the father back into the family life, and now the father has a few more years to abuse his daughters. That's what I mean by the leaders don't understand the side effect. So if we took the most positive thing and thought that leader, when he encouraged and had her choose her father, which she then gets applauded, she's now the rock star of that forum, right?
Right.
And this happens every forum. There's always whoever has the biggest, overcomes the most or whatnot is the star. And then they call that transformation, except for that almost always then is going to wreak havoc in that person's life. That's why I'm now onto the ideas themselves are not pure. There is no idea that is always good.
For everybody.
For everybody and everything.
Yeah.
And yeah, we can just see it really clearly in these kinds of trainings. So that's the stuff like, that's mostly in the 2 years that I wrote my book, like that's been the thing, is just story after story from so many people of these same themes over and over and over. And then the dangerous outcomes of those things, going back into relationships where there's harm and then the abuse of yourself. That's the other part. There's somebody just sobbing with me the other day, years and years and years later, when she went back into those dangerous relationship, it's my fault, but I'm 100% responsible. And I was probably the first person, or maybe the loudest person, to say it wasn't your fault. You were victimized. People need to be able to say for their own healing at a certain point that they've been victimized.
Oh, for sure. For us, even people that left with us around the same time who didn't necessarily do the work to I hate that term, but like to deprogram. It's one particular gal who I was trying to help get her brand removed. I knew that she was branded and she was out and she knew Keith was bad or whatever. And I tried to help her get it removed. And it was all these stumbling blocks. And anyway, I said something about, I forget what I asked her, but I remember her response was like, yeah, but I still chose all this. And I was like, you chose something different. You didn't choose what you got.
That's right.
Like
you were a victim of a crime.
You were lied to. You would never have chosen this. Yes, you made choices, but if you choose based on a lie, I was just looking at her going, oh my God, she still has so many things to unwind if she thinks that she still chose. Yeah. Yes, I chose to sign up to do a class. I chose to go to Albany. I chose to say yes to the branding. Of course, I can take responsibility for that, but I'm not going to take responsibility for somebody tricking me.
I asked my friend Chris Shelton to do an episode about responsibility when I was first seeing all these harms that happened in the name of being 100% responsible. And he did this great takedown. It was awesome. But responsibility is what you have the ability to respond to. If somebody didn't give you the information, you don't have the ability to respond. There is no consent in that. So I asked one of the Werner staffers, because there were several that came to me. So if they're out there listening and they want to try and pin it on the one person they're trying to attack right now, knock it off, because there are dozens that have talked to me and told me the same stories. But I asked one of them one time, I've asked a couple of them. We were told, so how I was told, because I was in the inner world and I would see him be verbally terrible, nasty with his staff. And, he had told us that was a training that they agreed to be interacted with in those harsh ways. And then hence that's the whole Full Metal Jacket video, right? Where you see the drill sergeant screaming in the face of a guy about a jelly donut. So I asked a couple of them, I said, I'm just curious, like in your actual contracts, agreements, employments, interviews, at any point along the way, did you ever have any hint that there would be what we now understand to be abuse? Now, keep in mind, back then, we didn't know that was abuse. We thought that was coaching. It wasn't coaching that I like. It's not the kind of coach I would sign up for, but it was legit coaching.
Right.
Now, I'll shout from the mountaintops, that is not legitimate coaching. That is abuse. Because I know the difference now. I didn't then. But the staff, these people said, no, we had no idea. Like none of that's in there. So when they agree to go on staff and they know it's going to be tough, they know that they're going to be like trained by the most elite performer to be an elite performer. They know, like, that's the kind of language.
It's a big commitment. Yeah, they know it's a commitment. It's going to be hard. They don't know they're going to be strangled and have things thrown at them and whatever. Right. Yes.
One of the things in the article that they talk about is hot liquid being, I hadn't heard that before actually, but hot liquid being poured on people, like a tea or coffee,
Jesus.
I'm like, there's just no world in which that's a training method.
No, that's torture in some places, yeah.
Now for something a little less culty, a quick sponsor message.
This episode is sponsored by BetterHelp. Every January, we're told it's time for a new you. New habits, new body, new personality. But what if 2026 isn't about becoming someone new, but instead putting some stuff down? Because honestly, a lot of us already carry enough. Feeling lighter doesn't always mean doing more. Sometimes it means letting go of stories, expectations, resentment, or anxiety that's been hitching a ride for way too long. That's where therapy can be incredibly helpful. Personally, I'm letting go of pressure to perform, and Sarah is letting go of stress and rushing around. and she's going to focus on balance. We shall see. For me, therapy has always been a way for me to really look at what's been weighing me down and get an unbiased perspective on what's actually worth carrying into the new year. Signing up for therapy can feel like a small step, but it can open up so much space for clarity, calm, and whatever you want for 2026 to hold. BetterHelp makes it easy. They match you with a fully licensed therapist using a quick questionnaire, and if it's not the right fit, you can switch anytime. With over 30,000 therapists, millions of people helped, and an average 4.9 out of 5 rating, it clearly works. So maybe this year isn't about chasing a new you. Maybe it's about finally feeling a little lighter. You can't step into a lighter version of yourself without leaving behind what's been weighing you down. Therapy can help you clear space. Sign up and get 10% off at betterhelp.com/culty. That's betterhelp.com/culty.
New year, new rhythms. And if you're trying to eat a little cleaner after the holiday free-for-all, ButcherBox makes it way easier. For over a decade, ButcherBox has led the industry with meat and seafood that's antibiotic-free, hormone-free, and independently verified. It's the clean, trustworthy protein you want to be eating, especially at the start of a new year. They deliver high-quality meat you can feel good about, from filet mignon to kid-approved chicken nuggets, all held to the same seriously high standards. No separate meals, no compromises. Everything's customizable, so whether you're meal prepping, feeding picky eaters, or just trying to survive weeknights without losing your mind, ButcherBox fits your routine and your goals. They're also a certified B Corp, which means they care about how animals are raised, how workers are treated, and their environmental impact. Every box ships free, always, with recipes, tips, and exclusive deals to make healthy eating actually doable. We are so thrilled that ButcherBox is our newest sponsor, and we are so excited to try everything, especially the ribeyes and the salmon fillets. As an exclusive offer, new listeners can get their choice between organic ground beef, chicken breast, or ground turkey in every box for a year, plus $20 off when you go to butcherbox.com/culty. That's right, your choice of organic ground beef, chicken breast, or ground turkey in every box for an entire year, plus $20 off your first box and free shipping always. That's butcherbox.com/culty. Don't forget to use our link so they know we sent you. Happy New Year.
I hate organizing finances on my own. My life is hectic and I need help. All the help I can get. Do you know how many subscriptions we're doubling up on or weren't even using at all? Way too many. That's where Rocket Money has saved the day. Rocket Money is a personal finance app that helps find and cancel your unwanted subscriptions, monitors your spending, and helps lower your bills so you can grow your savings. Rocket Money has been huge for Sarah and I. We've gotten a clear handle on our finances without making it a whole thing. You can set budgets and goals, get personalized insights and easy-to-read reports, and even real-time alerts for big transactions, upcoming bills, refunds, or when your balance is getting a little too low for comfort. I love not having to monitor my accounts because I get notifications when things come in and out. Everything from checking, savings, loans, and investments lives in one clean dashboard, so you actually know what's going on with your money. It's the kind of clarity that makes you feel calmer instead of more stressed. Let Rocket Money help you reach your financial goals faster. Join at rocketmoney.com/culty. That's rocketmoney.com/culty. rocketmoney.com/culty.
Sponsor breaks done. Back for more culty stories. And the article came out, they filed bankruptcy. What's happening now? Like, where are they at? And this is actually a question from Katie from our Patreon who wants a temperature check. Where are they in their recovery?
They have no recovery. There's no recovery. They're redesigning themselves. They're definitely putting on a much nicer front, like their communication, their PR statements. Actually, we have a former staff chat where a bunch of former staffers chat, and somebody just came in. She shared a complaint that she filed in 2024. So end of 2023, 2024, about, verbal abuse, humiliation, whatnot, in a short stint she did on staff. She shared the responses from the organization, which are basically very well ChatGPT. They seem to have discovered ChatGPT. The word salady communications are much better now. So, we are so sorry. We do not condone this, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. They say all the right things, but there's no action. There's no evidence. There's no actual functional or structural change. In fact, the person who was doing that in 2024 is still the top staff person in that area. So that's Landmark. And then the other thing, so Landmark filed, they did this bankruptcy thing. That was in 2023. I think It did get pushed back from the trustee because the whole thing, like 2 weeks, set up a new company, put the old company in, move the assets around. It was even the bankruptcy trustee in Texas, who was like the most corporate friendly place, was like, this is a little fishy. But they just did a payoff, I think $135,000 put into the trustee account. So I think that bankruptcy has now been discharged. Their business in about 2019 was in the neighborhood of around 90 million a year. The last numbers that I heard of, which were a couple of years ago, it was more like 20 million. Harry and Joan are no longer running the Landmark Seminar Company organization, the primary business. Joan is retired, is my understanding, although she is on the board as well, the board of directors. Harry moved over to be the president of the board. Mick Levitt, who was for 20 years the main PR marketing guy, I call them the Department of Defense. That's what their PR, because almost all of their PR was always about defending about cult accusations.
Are you a woman scorned, or did you have a mental breakdown? What are they saying about you?
I have grievance. Yeah. So just recently, mostly the things have been like, Anne, you should just get complete. I mean, part of why I elected, there's a lot of reasons I elected myself, but one of them was because I thought I had a good reputation. I was believable. Which turned out to be true. I've been reconnected with a lot of people, actually. That's one of the blessings that's come out of this. I'm like, a lot of people that I knew and worked with are, have just been so supportive and amazing. Like overwhelmingly, the response has been thank you. Almost all the calls have been people, can I please just tell you my story? I've never been able to tell my story. Like we've started a healthy healing group with Rachel Bernstein where people can come on, we're learning, we're talking. We've started a couple other groups for people. So most of it's been that. And then there's a small handful that are like, Anne is just incomplete. That's the biggest thing. I'm incomplete somehow. I have a grievance. I have a this or that. Recently, there were some attacks that included some information that could have pretty much, in my estimation, only come from kind of in the inner circle because it was about my employment. I was a terrible wisdom course leader. They were glad to see me go. Totally not true at all. I resigned. I gave my year notice. I was actually always very proud of how I completed as a leader because it was very much with integrity and all those relationships intact, which of course, that's why I was then tapped and invited to host Werner. It was just crazy. It's just crazy stuff. I wanted more money. I'm trying to get rich off of books, which, come on, you guys, can we all have a laugh about that? Like, anybody who's done a book knows, hello, folks, they cost money. So
yeah, and self-published, which means she paid to have her book out there. Okay.
That's right.
Yeah. How is your book doing, by the way? I meant to ask that.
It's actually doing pretty good for a self-published book. It's doing well. We've sold a little over 2,000 copies now.
Which is great, but also for the record, doesn't cover your upfront costs.
Nope. I'm still in the red on the direct book thing, if it makes anybody out there and my critics happy.
Oh, we should just say right here, if anyone's listening and wants the Audible, you need somebody to produce it so that I can narrate it for you.
That's right? So you can narrate it. That's right. Exactly. If you want to contribute to a fund to make that happen, that would be amazing. Yeah. But for me, the book was never about that. The book was, one, I had to break myself from Landmark because everything I tried to do, one, Landmark was threatening me. You can't do that. You can't do that. You can't say that. You can't talk to those people. You can't. So I needed that. But also, I just couldn't live with it. I couldn't live like knowing all this stuff. And I did think I was being protective at the time. My second book, which I am working on, it is kind of appearing. It's downloading. I've got an outline now. Will be much more about how the ideas get used in ways that are harmful and just using stories, some of these stories we've told. So anyway, so all of that, but in that time, then the pandemic happened. So, that really decimates Landmark's business. Joan and Harry supposedly retire. They probably are semi-retired, but they really go on to the board, Landmark Worldwide board. He's the president, she's on the board. And that board is who makes all the decisions about Landmark Worldwide. They ramp up. Most of their business is happening in India and Asia. They take apart the center's operations. In other words, where, you're tied, like Sarah, you were the Vancouver center, right? And Joan used to say you couldn't take apart the center's model because then you wouldn't have people, and I quote, to beat up for the results.
Wow.
So you wouldn't have people to produce the results. So they went to a more regional model. So if you go now, You're going to see the forum is online almost entirely. They say they are moving in the direction of being an online company. They're very enamored with this because it means they don't have to have the expenses of offices and centers and so forth. But they're having some trouble. In 2019, their revenues, when we saw them as stockholders, was somewhere around 90 million, 85 million, something like that. The last revenue numbers I saw, which was a couple of years ago, it was like 20 million. So their operation, particularly in North America, has been massively reduced. I heard via the rumor network a few weeks ago that they just announced in 2025 they did produce a profit. I don't have any validation or corroboration of that, but when you go to their website, you'll see like 44 landmark forums, but you'll see that only 1 or 2 of them are in the US. They're happening in regional time zones and they are online. Yeah. They have done a couple of what they're calling hybrid courses where it's a combination of live and online. They just announced one down in Australia, I think Melbourne. I think what they're finding out, they've never admitted that I know that they're a large group awareness training. Well, large group awareness training relies on that peak experience. I think that's very totally difficult to replicate in the online atmosphere. And I've heard that the online course is pretty much the same as the in-person course. So if the online courses are not being effective, in other words, people aren't leaving like with ways to produce amazing results, that starts to say something about the efficacy of the ideas, doesn't it? Because once you separate the ideas from the peak experience, you start to see a lot.
Yeah. And what happens when Werner dies?
I don't know who owns the technology. I doubt it's probably sitting in its own company so that it can be leased and, an ongoing revenue source to whoever they want to sell or lease or it to, would be my guess. But they've already got a whole system in place. I mean, Landmark is Werner's legacy.
Yeah.
It's his beard and his legacy, in my opinion. I mean, but to your guest, Landmark is kind of plugging along, sort of trying to sell that they're redesigning. There's some front-facing words that sound better. We have not seen any action yet. I have not heard of, including, I keep offering them. I'm like, hey, join the Seek Safely movement. Come on. You guys offered to have a representative from Landmark on. You would talk to them. They could come on and actually join the conversation.
I would
They
love
could fund
that.
the Healthy Healing Group.
Are they a crumbling empire or are they going to weather this, do you think?
I lean a little bit more towards crumbling. What my concern is that they've got fresh meat in India and Asia. But there's a factor now that was never there when they almost crumbled before in the 1990s and then came back. I mean, the word is the EST organization had about 700,000 graduates. That's not really that much, given how the sensation it was. Landmark then, I mean, in the press release they sent you guys, they said 3.5 million. That's their common number. Whether that includes the 7,000 or not, what that shows is that Landmark comeback was bigger participation-wise than the other. I don't think they're going to weather this because there's one factor they cannot deal with, which is the internet.
There's a lot of competing ideas in India and Asia.
Well, the other part to me is they haven't updated their work. They're still, this is another aspect to me that's culty, like they're still standing in very debunked ideas, like the 100% responsibility, the context is decisive, I'm working with Ed, we're actually offering a practitioner studio for coaches, consultants, and trainers who want to learn how to use transformational methodologies safely, effectively, and ethically. And you don't have to pay no bullshit certifications, no licensing, no anything. We'll show you how to, what's the source of those ideas? What's the actual psychology? How can it be harmful? How can it be helpful? Organizational development and organizational coaching can all be done very safely with great results and ethically. And these guys just won't get in that game. That's the part that I just am like, what the hell?
Is that what chaps your ass the most?
That is probably what chaps my ass the most. The biggest impediment, so to all my Landmark fans out there who are like, but the work is so good. The biggest impediment to the work, in my opinion, is the Landmark Worldwide.
Let's take a break from the cultiverse. Here's a word from our sponsors.
We all know how much sleep does for our skin and for our sanity, but how much do we prioritize it? Actually unwinding at night, that is the hard part. My brain is still running tomorrow's to-do list, and my skin is suffering, especially right now in the winter. That's why I'm so excited about our newest sponsor, Osea's Dream Collection. It has become a staple in my nighttime routine, and right now, It's all about the Dream Night Serum and the Dream Night Cream, which are clinically tested, powered by bioretinol, which is essential at this age, designed to reduce the visible effects of stress while you sleep. We're talking less dryness, less dullness, softer skin, and a noticeable boost in firmness by morning. It's like saying to your skin, I got you, I'm taking care of you. And now for 2026, I'm officially adding their newest launch, the Dream Bioretinol Body Serum, to my body routine. It's a restorative overnight treatment with bioretinol, red seaweed, magnesium, and lavender that visibly de-stresses skin, firms, smooths, and promotes that calm, ready for bed feeling. These are serious results: softer, more radiant skin by morning, and a bedtime ritual that actually helps you rest. This is body care that works while you sleep. And honestly, that's the dream. I'm obsessed. Give your skin a rest. Clinically tested skincare from Osea. And right now, we have a special discount just for our listeners. Get 10% off your first order site-wide with code CULTY at OseaMalibu.com. This is something that I believe we should all be doing for ourselves, taking care of ourselves, getting ready for bed at night, and taking care of our skin. Enjoy. Here's the harsh truth nobody wants to hear. You can spend all the money on serums and potions and lotions, but if your cells are stressed and dehydrated, your skin is never going to have that glow. So this year, I'm skipping the broken resolutions and committing to the internal fix that my skin has been begging for. The secret is a powerful two-part solution. One, to fight inflammation, and one, to support deep cellular hydration. That's why I love Peak's Radiant Skin Duo. Matcha plus electrolytes, working together to transform your skin from the inside out. Sun Goddess Matcha is my morning reset button. Ceremonial grade, grown in volcanic soil, packed with chlorophyll, EGCG, and L-theanine to calm my stress, because we all know I have that, and literally turn the glow switch back on. Then there's BT Fountain, which is luxury hydration, not a sports drink, designed to deeply replenish cells and rehydrate your complexion all day long. Together, less puffiness, brighter tone, fewer flare-ups, and that plump, dewy, what are you doing differently kind of glow. This isn't just energy, it's a skin reset. So commit to intentional health, unlock 20% off, and establish your powerful foundation for sustained well-being at peaklife.com/culty. That's PIQUE life.com/culty. This is hydration redefined. Try it and glow from the inside out.
Thanks for listening, everyone. Now let's dive back into the Cultiverse.
What would you want the people who are still fans of Landmark to know that they don't understand?
The abuse is real.
Yeah.
I just feel I've had so many victims that are not free because they're still in the mess of it to speak up. And maybe it's the way I'm wired, but I just feel like part of my job is to speak for them. And until they are heard, without truth, there is no reconciliation. So please believe the victims that have been harmed. And then when you go there, then you can start learning, well, gosh, how did those harms happen? Oh, well, maybe I need to think about responsibility a little bit differently. Or maybe that isn't, then you become a part of the solution rather than just continuing the problem.
And do you ever think about how your indoctrination or lessons about responsibility affect what you're doing now?
Oh my God. Every day, every week. I swear I do this. I have this little ceremony I do with myself now where I there's a little chip, a little virus. And I literally reach in and take it out and throw it in the garbage. No, every day. I'll probably listen to this episode and see some things where I'm like, oh man, Anne, you're still indoctrinated. No, I think I'll be doing that the rest of my life. I don't know. I mean, if you guys hear that, but I just wrote an essay on our Illuminate newsletter. That's kind of a place where I write. Writing helps me a lot. I just wrote one this last week where I saw that I was conditioned first by just being a girl who, as a woman in our society, how you make it is you be nice, you be good. You take care of people. Fawning, yeah. We're taught to fawn practically from birth. So then that makes me perfect for Landmark. I go in, I become very successful, rise to the top and inside of this organization. What? My ability to be liked, to take care of people. When I had this really nasty criticism on a Facebook thing and I had this visceral physical response and was super upset. I'm like, one, this is a fake profile. This isn't even a person I know. And my body's responding like I'm under physical threat because they don't like me and they don't understand me. And I took that apart. And I wrote about it in our last newsletter about how being liked became my way to survive. And that 25 years in that organization just honed that to an incredible ability. That's one of those bugs. Like, I'm like, no, you know what? Some people aren't going to like me, and that's okay.
I think that this episode is going to drop the same week that an episode drops between me and Nippy and Mark Vicente on our Patreon. And we talk exactly about that. Next time they called it like me disease.
Everyone has. It's not proprietary to Anne
Everyone
Peterson.
has it different ways. I mean, Nippy, you don't care as much about what people think about you that as perhaps Anne and I do.
Well, I do, just not as it pertains to if I'm going to stand for something, you're not going to let me for
but you're not like, it doesn't, there's somebody, you just don't care as much.
Yeah.
You don't have the same physical threat.
Yeah.
So there's not the same, you have the privilege of being a white male.
I don't do the identity politics, white male stuff. I don't think it's proprietary.
You are a strong, big white man.
But it doesn't mean I don't read stuff and feel like
you don't get scared
attacked.
going down an alley.
No, they get scared of me.
Yeah. That's
and I have the privilege of being being a tall, white, pretty woman. All things that have in social sciences and psychology have proven to give you privilege, give you advantage. Right? Like, would I have gotten the job to host Werner if I wasn't a pretty woman and I was successful in the organization? I'm not taking that away from myself. I mean, I was very successful. I was very good at what I did. I still am. You want to do an event with me, trust me. So they're amazing. But
I bet you had some nice power suits too.
Oh my gosh, yes. Chris Shelton and I were talking the other day about the uniform on Landmark, and I'm like, pantsuit
Were you allowed to wear dark
way.
denim jeans with a blazer?
No, you couldn't wear jeans.
I fought for that in Nexium. I convinced them
and gluten-free
that it was time. Yeah, it was like, we are business. In Vancouver, dark denim with a blazer was totally acceptable.
I feel like there were some places somewhere where you could wear jeans, but with no holes for sure. But I can't remember where that was.
I'm sorry, that was a huge digression. But back to the like me thing. If you haven't heard it already, and also for our audience to listen to our episode with Dr. Ingrid Clayton about fawning and her book about fawning, please just don't do anything else. I'm going to send you the link after this and read her book immediately. It's life-changing, really helpful. Okay, so tell people what you're doing now and where they can find you. You've been talking about that a little bit, but like, what's your main focus now and how can they reach you?
Did you want to know anything else about the London thing?
If there's more.
Is there more to say?
Well, just simply that is an ongoing case, and that the hearing, the appellate hearing that the London Times article was referencing and talking about, and you can watch that appellate hearing actually on YouTube. The first 10 minutes and the last 10 minutes are the most useful. The other 3 hours in the middle is a lot of legal mumbo jumbo. But what was extraordinary about that hearing that I'm just so excited about, because we just didn't expect this, when these aides of Werner's decided to come forward and to try and first make the abuse stop, second, get hopefully some of the money back, because as I outlined in my book, there's this whole crazy pay refund thing where he takes up their money, which turns out is replicated in Landmark as well. So they just wanted like restitution for themselves. That was it. They wanted him to clean it up initially. That doesn't happen. So then they go to the legal repercussions, because that's what the people they were consulting offered them. But what we didn't expect is, so this hearing that just happened literally reified and strengthened the whistleblower protections in the UK. It also, that decision, it clarified a 1996 parliamentary law about whistleblowing and really strengthened that and said that whistleblowers who experience detriment, is the word, harm, in other words, retaliation, that then becomes a legal matter. That then becomes something that they can get restitution over. So if I blow the whistle on somebody harming me, I have the right to bring that forward, no matter what confidentiality agreements were signed, any of that. And one of the things that was really exciting in this hearing, well, first of all, in the hearing, the attorney who's been working pro bono for years, he's an amazing justice lawyer. He did get to, make the point that when they get to the tribunal, arbitration judge has already seen the evidence and said there was sufficient evidence that there was abuse. We can't go into the detail of that arbitration, but that piece we can speak to because it's in that appellate hearing. But then what happened, and it's been published all over the UK, is the strengthening of these whistleblower protections as well as taking a knock at company and individuals' use of arbitration to avoid open court. That has way bigger impacts than just stopping. Werner's old now. He's left the UK. He's in a Caribbean island. I'm not going to say which one because it's kind of widely known, but anyway, we'll leave that for somebody else. But is he still abusing people? If he can stand up and move around, I feel fairly confident that he probably is. Mostly just because I now understand psychology and abuse enough to know it's not something he even has choice or will over. That's the fundamental lie of human potential, in my opinion, is that we have total control over all of our choice and our actions. No, most of our actions in the day are coming in an emotional response, habitual response, no. But something you don't just stop abusing because you gave your word to stop abusing. He's given his word to stop abusing hundreds of times. I'm sure he's likely still abusing.
Yeah, I wonder if someone like Werner Erhard measures his success by how many obedient followers he has or how many people he's helped.
I think he measures the success based on how legitimized and accepted his ideas are in the mainstream. That's why he's after the academic thing so much.
Yeah. So his is ego.
And of course, money, but he doesn't really talk about money.
Yeah.
He has a whole team of people whose job it is to make sure that everything he thinks, wants, or imagines gets paid for.
Yeah, validated too. Yeah.
So he doesn't really get his hands into that part. So that case is really great. And I just want to keep bringing attention to that because when we come forward and we speak up, like me, I didn't know that I was going to create a space for hundreds of staff members to start to heal. That is not what I had in mind, but that's what's happened.
Congratulations on that.
Yeah, seriously.
That's big.
It's huge.
That's what this is really about anyway, right?
When Daniel stood up, that appellate hearing, and I'm sure they'll do the things they can apply to the UK Supreme Court, even though it was 3 senior judges, one step below the Supreme Court, that gave a unanimous decision in Daniel's favor, putting his primary detriment case back into the tribunal, which will get scheduled for some time in the next year. It might take up to 2 years. We don't know. The courts are very backed up. But Daniel didn't know that he was going to change UK law, the practice of it, how it was that wasn't what he set out for. And that's going to help hundreds of thousands of victims.
That's great.
Yes.
Yeah.
And there's lots going on in the UK. I hope that helps with the Lighthouse case because I know that people started to talk about that when the doc came out and then all the victims were silenced. We had a couple podcast episodes lined up with that group and then we couldn't do it because they were all shut down with legal stuff. Anyway, back to you. What are you doing now and where can people find you?
They can find me at isthisoccultbook.com. That's my book website. Has lots of stuff. Also, Illuminate Life, which is a funky artistic spelling. So I'll give you that. But that's the platform. I had already started that before all this. And then I kind of froze it. I stopped it because I just was like, and my joke always is, I think I'm going to go just sell shoes at Nordstrom's, which was my dream job when I was 18.
Not too late.
I know, it's not. I'm moving back to Seattle too, so I can go, back to the mothership. But what I've decided instead, I've partnered with the Seek Safely organization and working really closely with them out to really support that organization. And then Illuminate is going to be a platform where people can find practitioners, teachers, leaders, and we're going to include wellness products as we grow, where the practitioners have committed to seeking safely principles and practices and where they have been vetted for a certain level of ethics and, safety care, that they actually take that in practice in whatever they're doing. So that's what my big vision is, to build that platform up, to have it be a place where people can come and know, okay, if I work with a coach or a trainer or something off of this platform, I at least know there's a set of guidelines that they've agreed to abide by, and there'll ultimately be a structure to where people can report if it goes awry.
That's amazing. So important.
Man, that's awesome.
Yeah.
You've done a lot in a short amount of time.
It's been wild. It's been it was a tough 3 years that led to write my book. And that was the scariest thing I ever did. I'll never forget March 7th of 2024. Was it 2024?
No, I remember driving down. When was that? It would have been.
Oh, yeah. You guys were driving from Atlanta to Florida.
And we had those 2-3 hour conversations organizing how to get this out. And
that's something else I want to do.
You were in a different place.
I do still want to. I now have an encyclopedic knowledge and access to a lot of people that can help tell us the story of the human potential movement and how it's played out in both good and bad ways in our society.
Well, we should talk more because we have some ideas about how we want to segue it a little bit culty into maybe a channel or something like that. talking about doing something that.
More to come. Thank you so much for your time, Anne. It's always
Thank you,
great to
guys.
reconnect.
You were the beginning of waking up. I'd always like to say that it was like having people come to me because they're being beat, having Landmark betray me by threatening me left and right. But honestly, watching The Vow probably had more to do with like, wait, that's familiar. Wait. So I always tell people, they're like, well, where should I start?
Yeah.
I always tell them, like, go watch The Vow, watch Getting Clear, and start to just recognize if you see similarities. Because that's actually an easier way for people to start to.
It's good, yeah, because it's hard for people who are attached to the work and their growth or whatever to see it in their own thing, but you see it somewhere else. Yeah, The Vow and Going Clear are top of our list, I'd say. We have a whole other list. littlebitculty.com/resources.
Yes. I actually have a link to that on my page.
Amazing. Well, thank you, Anne. Please do keep in touch and let us know how we can support you. And we'll be letting you know when our next book comes out because you are, I think mentioned in
And
it.
I'm going to tell everybody all about it. Yeah, because I do have my own show now, which I'm playing along with. We'll see how long that continues. But as long as there's stuff to talk about.
What's it called?
Confronting the Line. So that's the subtitle of my book, right? Confronting the Line, where we look at help and harm, exploitation versus transformation. How do we tell the difference? So,
yeah, amazing. Keep up the good work.
You
Fight
too.
the good fight.
You too.
Bye, Anne.
Bye. Well, that's the end of part 2 with Anne feeling a little mix of validation and also hope, seeing the truth named so clearly. More than anything, we are so proud of Anne's commitment to keep centering survivor stories and pushing for safer, more ethical spaces for healing and transformation. Please do let us know what you thought of this episode on Instagram or Patreon or Spotify, wherever you are listening. And please feel free to reach out and make requests for the future. We are booking 2026. Here we go. Buckle up, Buttercup. See you next time.
Sinking down to the depths of the ocean, I'm hanging on to the weight of my love. If I let go of it all, I could leave, but I know I won't.
We hope you're enjoying A Little Bit Culty. If so, please do show us some love. Drop a rating or leave a review. Hit subscribe on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you listen. And subscribe to our Patreon at patreon.com/alittlebitculty.
Even better, send this episode to someone who needs it. Maybe they're in a cult. Maybe they're just a little bit susceptible. Or maybe they just love a good story. Spread the word, spread the love. Thanks for listening, and see you next time.
A Little Bit Culty is a Trace 120 production.
Executive produced by Sarah Edmondson and Anthony Nippy Ames in collaboration with producer Will Rutherford at Citizens of Sound. Our co-creator is Jess Temple Tardy.
Our production coordinator is Leslie Dinsmore.
Writing by Sandra Namoto and social media marketing by Eric Swarzinski and Brooke Keene.
Our theme song, Cultivated, is by the artists John Bryant and Nigel Aslan.